Hey guys, this is Comic Uno, and today I'm doing Comic Uno episode 231, and this is the show where I review all the comics I've read this week in one show. I go least favorite to best pick of the week, so let's get started. This week I had my average amount, which is about 20 books, so number 20. My least favorite for this week was Action Comics issue 998, and this issue, well, this story arc in general, I was just really tired of. I'm not a huge Booster Gold fan, and for this to be going on for like 5 issues, I just feel like there wasn't enough narrative here for the sake of page count that we had with this storyline. Also, the Lois Lane storyline kind of just felt, you know, stuck in here. I wish it flowed a little bit better in the storyline, but yeah, overall, just kind of underwhelmed with this arc, and it just kind of feels like a filler slash stuff we've seen before with the Krypton storyline, so that's why I wasn't really into this one. But the artwork was pretty good for the story. I do like the style. I think it worked. So overall, Action Comics issue 998 gets 2 stars, and that is number 20. Moving on to number 19, which is Avengers issue 682, and I'm also just not loving this arc so far. This is the weekly series that's been going on with Avengers, and what I don't like and continue not to like about this this arc is the back and forth with the different characters. I feel like the story would be a lot stronger if it focused on maybe 1 or 2 characters, but they just focus on way too many. There's too many characters sharing a page that you can't really get the full scope. So overall, not feeling it, even though you get that Hulk ending. It's like, it took 3 issues for him to get out of that gravel. It took him a while. It's the same cliffhanger over and over again. So overall, I gave that one 2 stars. Still not fully impressed with that arc yet. Moving on to number 18, which is Peter Parker, the Spectacular Spider-Man issue 300, and this is obviously a milestone issue that they just kind of made a milestone issue because it's only been like, what, 7 or 8 books of this version, but because of previous Spectacular Spider-Man issues, it's a milestone issue. And I'm just not feeling the tone of this book, and I really wanted to like it because this is more about Peter and Spider-Man's life and seeing more of that, you know, trying to balance his life. But I feel like there's just too many supporting characters here that you can't really fully focus on Peter. Also, this is not the best style for Kubert. I've seen better for... This is also not the worst I've seen from the series, but I just feel like his pencils could be stronger here. It just kind of feels plain to me. Also, the dialogue... just wasn't really interested in it for this one. Never really hooked me from the beginning. It was very dialogue heavy throughout the issue. The story I did like, though, was the last backup story with Black Cat. I thought it was cool that Black Cat asked Peter to marry her, and Peter's like, oh, what? And it's like, got ya, tricked ya to, you know, just get away with my crimes. So I thought that was a fun storyline, but I just did not care about the Tinkerer in the actual main story arc. So this one I gave 2 stars, just not feeling it. Now moving on to number 17, which is The Terrifics issue 1. This is part of the New Age of Heroes. I believe this might be the last one of the New Age of Heroes. They have, maybe it's the last one. No, you still have the Curse of Brimstone just coming out too. So it's one of the later ones. And I picked up all of them, and the only one I really liked was Sideways, the one that I will continue to go on. But the Terrifics, it's not bad, but it just kind of feels like you are thrown into this narrative without any real explanations of who these characters are. And I know these characters, so obviously I wasn't lost, but for people who don't know anything about these characters, I feel like they could have done some more explaining. And I feel like the team just comes together really quickly, that you don't really care for their chemistry or why they're really coming together. So honestly, the big problem with this book, there's no hook. And that has been my problem with all these New Age hero comic books. Where are the hooks? And the only one I really got that with was Sideways. And ironically, you know, obviously that's kind of their answer to Peter Parker / Spider-Man is, and you know, a lot of people have been saying and commentating on, is the Terrifics DC's answer to Fantastic Four. And I definitely get all those, you know, narratives. So And also Damage is very Hulk-like, so it's kind of straight to see that. But, yeah, this just needed a better hook. I might get issue 2 just hoping that it will have a stronger narrative, but I was not really sold on it with this issue, which you really need to do with this type of line for DC and just issue 1 in general. So I gave this one 2.5 stars. Moving on to number 16, which is the Invincible Iron Man, issue 597, and this whole arc has been in a standstill, which I've been annoyed at, because, you know, we're spending $3.99 on each issue, and nothing's really progressing. They always mention, oh yeah, we're searching for that Tony Stark, but you never really get any answers to the search of Tony Stark. It just feels like one big stall until we get to the last issue of Brian Michael Bendis' run, and so Tony's back! And, you know, I want more story than that. Even if you don't want to bring Tony right away, let's see the connection of these characters to Tony. Let's do that type of storyline, and I'm not really getting that. Artwork is good though. I do like that we get the artist from Infamous Iron Man and the artist from, you know, this title for Riri. I think that differentiates the artwork pretty well. So Invincible Iron Man issue 597 gets 2.5 stars. Still not feeling this this arc. I do feel like it's stalling. Now moving on to number 15, which is Jessica Jones, issue 17. Now, Jessica Jones also has a very similar problem to Invincible Iron Man. Just that I feel like there's a lot of padding with this issue. And, you know, this is supposed to be a very strong arc, and there's moments that are strong between Purple Man and Jessica. But I feel like this conversation should have happened last issue. It did not need a whole entire issue and pages and honestly blocks of dialogue and sections to really have this conversation. So I think it took away from the emotional impact between, I mean, look at this page, between Purple Man and Jessica. So overall, I gave this 2.5 stars. I was a bit disappointed, but I at least think the plot progressed better than it did with Invincible Iron Man. But once again, I think this issue could have been saved for maybe another storyline, and they could have done and finished the Purple Man story with the last issue. So I gave that 2.5 stars. Moving on to number 14, which is Raven, Daughter of the Darkness, issue 2. I did like this issue better because it focused on Raven, her, you know, her family and her friends. And I always feel like that's where Wolfman does best with his current run on Raven. I liked it in his last miniseries. I like it here. But the villain, ironically, is where I feel like it falters. You would think that, you know, because obviously a big part of Raven is her father, and we're seeing these other family dynamics, but we're just not getting the connection I want with the villains for me to care about them. Also, the artwork is a bit thin at times. I do like the tone, but I think the facial expressions could be better. There are scenes where there's a lot of people in the panel, so it's kind of hard to really get those expressions. So overall, I'll give Raven, Daughter of the Darkness, issue 2, 3 stars. I like this more than last issue. Gave me enough to say, hey, I'll pick up the next issue, but still not hooking me as much as that original miniseries did. So moving on to number 13, which is Wonder Woman issue 41. And this issue, I liked the Steve and Wonder Woman moments. Of course, I just like them hanging out and talking, so that's always nice. Having some romance between them. Well, kind of just talking about the relationship, not as much showing romance. But I did like those scenes, and I am very tired of Darkseid and Grail. They've been here since the beginning of Robinson's run, and one thing that Robinson does tend to do is to have very long-winded arcs, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, and here, just not working. I think, you know, why Silver Swan, for me, was the better arc is because it was pretty short and it told a story. Here, it's like, alright, I'm kind of tired of Darkseid, I don't really care about his motives anymore, I want to see a different villain. And yeah, so I'm just not feeling the villain section of this issue and his motives. I did like that last page with Jason though. I think that character design looked cool, like his new costume. But overall, the small character moments don't really make up for the bigger plot issues of this issue. So Wonder Woman issue 41 for me gets 3 stars, and mostly because this the artwork is pretty solid throughout, and the coloring allows the transition between Lou Pacino's art and this artist to work well. Now, moving on to number 12, which is Bettie Page issue 8. This is the last issue of Bettie Page, sadly. I really enjoyed this one. I do think that the ending felt a little rushed to me, which is why it's a bit lower, but I just like Betty's personality, and overall it's a nice, hey, you know, we got more Avengers if we want type storyline. So that was number 12, and I gave that 3 stars. Moving on to number 11, which is Batgirl issue 20. Love this cover. This is the variant cover, and with this issue, I like some of the character moments here, kind of similar to the Wonder Woman thing, where I love the way that Hope Larson is dealing with Bab's eidetic memory, and that she can now figure out sound, and she can kind of remember sound, and that's how she kind of figures out who's behind all this cold weather. So I like that. I like those moments, and even the ending, you know, it's Barbara dealing with the penguins, or Penguin and his son, and she realizes, hey, you know, I have a lot of scars, I've grown up, and, you know, I gotta kind of show that I've grown up. And it's cool kind of commentary on this run towards the Burnside run, where she was kind of newer to Burnside in the New 52. So I like that, but the penguins, I could care less about. I didn't really like the son when he was in that original arc. Didn't really like him here, but I like the Barbara moments. So overall, I gave this 3.5 stars. I did like the artwork too. That was definitely one of the better aspects. Pretty clean artwork, and it worked. And also, I like the character designs, like I said, with Barbara's coat thing going on, coat costume. I like that. So Batgirl issue 20 gets 3.5 stars. So moving on to number 10, which is Motor Crush, issue 10. And this issue definitely has some good character moments, especially between Dom and Lola and her father. Her father definitely has a good cliffhanger that his girlfriend, who's kind of dead and also connected to the crush, comes back. So that was a good emotional moment for the cliffhanger. And then Dom talking to Lola saying, hey, I want to have a life with you. I will leave this behind. And Lola's like, no, I mean, we've dealt with this before. So that was definitely heartbreaking in the issue. And those are the shining moments. Why this is a bit lower, I feel like this was a bit cluttered, this issue. The whole opener with Dom's other friend, I feel like wasn't really needed here. So I just kind of wish it focused more on those other emotional aspects. So I gave this one 3.5 stars. I do like Babs Tarr's visuals for this book though, even if the action felt a little cluttered as well. So moving on to number 9, which is Betty and Veronica Vixens issue 4. And I just had fun with this. It's just the girls beating up on these guys who is part of the, what's it called? Serpents. The same gang from the television show, and it's the girls teaming up and improving themselves, and I enjoyed it. It's just kind of a girl power issue, and now we get to see some people in Riverdale kind of seeing something's up with Betty and Veronica and her crew, so their crew. So we'll see how that plays out. Also, I like the artwork. It kind of has this 50s style slash Grease style, and they even mentions like, this isn't the 50s, this is modern life. So it's kind of weird also, because it kind of feels like such a 50s book but placed in a modern setting. So it's classic Archie, and it works for this title. So I gave Betty and Veronica Vixens issue 4 3.5 stars. Oh no, never mind, I gave it 4 stars, sorry. And that was number 9. Number 8 is Mera, Queen of Atlantis, issue 1. I'm glad to see this pretty high. I'm usually not totally into Aquaman, but I wanted to try Mera's miniseries, and I feel like it did a pretty good job. If you know nothing about the character, it explains her character, even though there's definitely some exposition, but for me, who's not so much into Aquaman, it definitely helped for me to catch up who Mera is. And I also really liked Ocean Master and his storyline, where we see that he's made a life on land, and he might have to leave it. So, ironically, it's the other characters that have I don't want to say a better story than Mera, but a more interesting story where, again, Ocean Master and Tula trying to, with the small scenes that she has, trying to balance her life on land and in the ocean, or her roots in the ocean. And I like that. And Mera's mostly exposition, though. But overall, I really like the artwork, and it got me into Aquaman, which kind of gives me a bit of a push for this issue, because I usually don't really like Aquaman. But this definitely was interesting enough of how they balance the land and ocean aspect, which I know the current series is doing too, but I was just able to connect with this one. So, Mera, the Queen of Atlantis, issue 1 gets 4 stars, and definitely picking up the next issue. I'm glad to say that. Alright, so moving on to number 7, which is Saga, issue 49. Mostly a setup issue of some drama that's going to be happening with Robot, but I like this narrative of found family, and that's really what it's about. It's less about our main characters interacting with each other, but instead with their found family. And my favorite scene of this issue is with Hazel and Squire, where they're fighting like normal siblings would do, and then Hazel says something hurtful, and she says, you know, young people these days, they communicate through screens, which is kind of ironic because she technically is communicating with a screen, and it's kind of part of this bigger commentary on technology. But I love that line. It's a real gift for young people to be able to see the face of someone they've hurt. In that moment, you learn whether or not you have what it takes to be a killer. First of all, I mean, one of the best things about Saga is Hazel's narration. You wonder, you know, what she is like in the future. And it's about her thinking about her childhood. And that was always the hook for me with Saga, and I think for a lot of people is the hook. And I think we could all guess this is probably a book she's writing, and that, you know, her parents connected with a novel. I wouldn't be surprised if that's kind of how we find out at the end of this book, is that Hazel's writing a novel herself. But, yeah, overall, really enjoyed those scenes, and the more relatable scenes, which Saga/Brian K. Vaughan is really good at doing, is making these really, you know, out of these world elements, making it grounded, and that scene in particular really did it for me. So, Saga issue 49, yes, does really well with the supporting characters / found family members and the way they interact with our main characters. So I gave this one 4 stars. And of course, Fiona Staples' artwork is gorgeous. And just the colors here, and just the simplicity to it really, the simplicity to the pencils really make this this strong. And of course, still those, again, those otherworldly elements that just make it really interesting to look at. Alright, moving on to number 6, which is Hack and Slash Resurrection, issue 5. Doesn't look like Cassie and her girlfriend are gonna be hanging out much longer after this. Probably her ex-girlfriend at this point, because Cassie kills her girlfriend's mother and says, hey, she was gonna do bad things, and her girlfriend's like, but she's my mom, and I was trying to protect you at the same time. So I love the complicated relationship that's painted here, and by the end we see the mom resurrect, so we'll have to see what ends up happening there. I will say still the weaker aspect is the artwork. Sometimes the proportions are kind of weird, but I didn't notice it as much for this issue as other issues. But I really enjoy the story and just Cassie's personality in general. So, Hack and Slash Resurrection issue 5 gets 4 stars, and that was number 6. Moving on to number 5, which is Long Lost issue 4. Really enjoyed this issue. Goes back to that character work that I really like for this book. I like the sisterly connection, and then seeing their small town in a new glimpse, because they've obviously lived their lives and got out, unlike some of the other people in town. And I really like their commentary on their aunt's food that they used to love, and he's like, oh, you know, I kind of remembered this differently. And it's just kind of an interesting way to look into nostalgia. And I just like the personalities of these characters, where there's even a scene where they're talking about like imaginary friends, and it just works here because that's the structure of this book. But then in the end, the plot does progress pretty well, where we see that haunted woman from the forest and her aunt are sisters. So there's something going on with the forest and their connection. So really enjoyed that that cliffhanger. And I just love the art. Look at this. Very different, grayscale artwork. And even though it is a darker storyline, I do like the brightness of this book, even kind of the cartoony nature of the character designs here. So, Long Lost issue 4 gets 4 stars, and that's number 5. Moving on to number 4, which is Spider-Gwen, issue 29. I love this book, as you know, and I really have been enjoying this Gwenom arc, where, especially in this issue, Gwen has to truly face, am I going to kill Matt Murdock? And Jason Latour, up to this point, has really convinced you Gwen might kill someone. And I love that. I love just the anxiety that the Venom has given Gwen, and that you actually question that a Spider-Person may kill. And here, Gwen is, you know, going through every barrier. She punches Captain America, and I love Matt Murdock's line. It's like, oh, you just, you know, punched the American flag, pretty much. So, I really enjoyed that, and just Matt Murdock's, you know, peanut gallery comments in this issue. But then it's Gwen having Matt on the edge of that building and saying, I'm not you, and you know, says, alright, I'm not gonna kill you. But that moment where you're like, what is she gonna do? And by the end, things are screwed up. The Watcher sees this. We do get a lot of the Watcher, which I felt like kind of took out of the intensity of the issue. That was my only really negative of this issue. But you do need it, because in the end you get a cliffhanger of Gwen from, it looks like the 616, meeting up with our Gwen, and she's staring kind of that demon in the face. You know, obviously everyone compares her to this Gwen, so really excited what that's going to do for the next issue. So that was a really good cliffhanger. Overall, I gave this one 4 stars. I love the artwork. Robbie Rodriguez and Jason Latour, just a wonderful creative team, and again, the anxiety just seeps through the narrative and the artwork. Just beautiful stuff here, and the coloring. I have to give it to Rico Renzi as well to establish this tone. So, Spider-Gwen issue 29 gets 4 stars, and that is number 4. Moving on to number 3, which is Go-Go Power Rangers issue 7. I love this book, and this, you know, ups the drama. They're going to homecoming dance. I love how they get ready for the homecoming dance. We got Kimberly and Trini just talking about their drama, and they got pink streaks and yellow streaks. I thought that was cool. And something I have to really compliment Dan Mora for, who's the artist of this book, is giving this modern flair for the dance and giving them individual styles here. And, you know, that's very important for a book that's about teenage life. But, you know, gotta really compliment that too, all these character designs and clothing designs in this issue that I really enjoyed. Now, the drama going on here, obviously Billy wanting to leave the team, they're dealing with that, and then finding out that Matt is not Matt. They do finally find that out, and I love that Matt crashes the homecoming dance and says, I've been stuck on the moon! So now you wonder, is Matt going to find out that well, his friends are the Power Rangers? We'll have to see. But now, the Power Rangers have to deal with this person that they've been interacting with, especially Kimberly, because, I mean, they're in a relationship, so she's been deceived. So I'm really curious to see how she's going to react. And how this is all going to connect to Shattered Grid. This was the prelude to Shattered Grid, so we know that Matt's going to have a big role. So Go-Go Power Rangers was a lot of fun. Not as much Power Rangers action as the book usually has, but really ups the drama here. So Go-Go Power Rangers issue 7 gets 4 stars, and that is number 3. Moving on to number 2, which is All New Wolverine issue 31. And this was such a fun issue. It's Gabby and Deadpool / also Wolverine by the end teaming up to save all these zombie animals, or at least try to save them, or at least see what's been going on with them. And this is how you do a filler issue. Yes, this is a filler, but it's a very nice palette cleanser before we get into this future storyline and right after the long arc of Orphan X. This is how you do a one-shot. This was just so much fun. I love Gabby and Deadpool's chemistry. Just a perfect balance of Deadpool here. And it's just, again, it was just such a fun issue and funny issue. There's, in the way Tom Taylor and artists work together here, was so well done. Like when they have to go up against a zombie sloth, and just the way that page is paced was so well done. And yeah, and also just like some of the movie moments in the end, where they're walking away from the burning building, and Deadpool's like, don't look back. We gotta be cool. And then Deadpool's like, you wanna look at the fire? And Gabby's like, hell yeah. so they just sit down and watch the fire. Yeah, it's just a fun issue. I keep saying that, but it totally was. And I love the cartoony nature of the artwork. Pick this one up, especially if you enjoyed Gabby, because Gabby is such a pleasure and a ray of sunshine for this book. But also just her interaction with Laura is great too. So this I gave 4.5 stars, and that is number 2. Moving on to number 1. This has been a while since this has been my number 1, but I love this issue, and that is Detective Comics issue 975. This is how you do a Bat Family issue. I really appreciated that this was truly an aftermath of Kate dealing with the emotional trauma of killing someone. And I love that opener with Kate and Batman, or Kate and Bruce as their kids. And this is at Kate's mother's funeral, and you see how similar they are as people. And Bruce said, you know, I have dreams where I want to shoot the person that killed my parents, and these are good dreams. So it's just a really interesting way to look at these twisted characters who've dealt with childhood trauma, like Kate and Bruce. But what I really appreciated was the Bat Family aspect. It's Bruce calling the true Bat Family, the inner circle, I would say. Very happy that Batgirl was included, because sometimes she's not. But we got, you know, Damian, Dick Grayson. I want to show the page because it's a pretty awesome page. We got Batgirl, again, Damian, Dick Grayson, Jason, and Tim. And Bat says, hey, you're my family. I wouldn't make a decision without you. And I love these are the people that could stand up to Bruce. The only people that could really truly tell the truth to him. And Dick Grayson says, hey, you know, I think Kate should have a second chance. Damian's like, you're not even part of the family, you're not blood. So that was kind of a fun little comment from Damian. Tim said, you know, he thought this was the experiment that he, you know, would have done well for the Bat Family. And I love his idea of like, hey, I didn't deal with trauma, but I just wanted what was best for the Bat Family. And I know you guys so well because I studied you guys. So it really shows how these personalities are very different. But then it's Batgirl, which I think it made a lot of sense that Barbara is the one who kind of stands up and says, Bruce, you're doing this for the wrong reasons. And I love you. I'll do whatever I have to with you, but I have to agree that this is because Kate has crossed a line and she needs to be stopped, that she's going to do something bad. But at this point, only Kate could save herself, and she has to make that decision. And the only reason you want to keep Kate and why you did all this was because of her connection with your mother and the blood relationship there. So it's just a really interesting commentary on family, which I really liked. And then also, you know, not forgetting any other characters. Cassandra is a big piece to this of how broken she is because of what the bat symbol meant to her, and you saw that in the issue where Clayface dies, and because the bat symbol meant don't kill, and that's important to her because she's killed a lot of people. That's, you know, how she grew up, and Barbara is the one who says that. It's like, look what you did to, you know, look what happened to Cassandra. You know, things are in disarray because of this decision you made, that you didn't really think about the people connected. You're kind of selfish about it, which makes sense for Bruce Wayne's character. So I enjoyed that. And even Stephanie's mentioned in the issue. So the other, and Batwing's in it. And then it's also Kate's section. It's not just Batman's side, it's Kate's side too, of like why she's doing the things she's doing, and it's very much in a soldier perspective. By the end, she teams up with her father, but there's so many nice emotional beats in this issue, and just a really well done character issue. And this is how you have a lot of characters, but all have purpose to be in this issue. So Detective Comics issue 975 for me gets 4.5 stars, and that is my pick of the week. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. This is Comic Uno. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter. Don't forget to like my Facebook page. Also, description below, there are links for my comic book, Like Father, Like Daughter. And don't forget to like the Facebook page of Like Father, Like Daughter. And I'll see you guys later. Bye.